Virginia voters will make an historic choice when they elect a new governor later this year. Republican Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earle-Sears and Democratic nominee and former Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger are facing off. Either way, the Commonwealth will have its first female chief executive. But while it's a statewide race, it definitely has national undertones. Sam Shirazi has been following Virginia politics for years. He's up late with me tonight here on the Final Five. First of all, welcome. Good to see you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm always excited to talk about Virginia elections.
Yeah, well, and this is like the Super Bowl right now as we count down to Election Day. Well, first of all, why does Virginia why do you think it just gets all of this attention nationally?
So this is the first big election after the presidential election. And so everyone's always looking at Virginia to see what is the political temperature. Is the party in the White House doing well, or are they not doing well? And traditionally, the party in the White House typically loses the Virginia governor's election. We'll see if that happens this year, but that's why Virginia gets so much attention. And
then that's what brought us Bob McDonnell in year one of the Obama administration and Glenn Youngkin in year one of the Biden administration. But we talked about the historical aspects here, but I think we're starting to get a sense of how the national issues relate on the statewide level after the passage of President Trump's bill last week. And you saw a different reaction, at least from the outset, from both campaigns.
Right. So the Democrats, former Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger, definitely wanted to talk about it. She's mentioned it a lot on the campaign trail. She posts a lot about it. So she's definitely making that a core part of her campaign. By contrast, Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earle-Sears rarely mentions it, and it's just not something she wants to be talking about. And you see that happen typically. The party that's not in the White House wants to make this a national election, talk about what's going on in D.C. The party in the White House wants to make it a Virginia election, wants to focus on Virginia issues, and I think we're seeing that right now.
And when you look at it through that lens, is that fair to Virginia voters when you look at certain issues that certainly don't relay nationally, as opposed to some like the DOJ cuts, like the fact that we've seen a lot of Virginians, I mean, to be fair, lose their jobs because of these cuts? I mean, there are certain things that Virginians talk about that you're not going to talk about in Pennsylvania or Illinois or in California.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reality is these elections become referendums on national issues, partly because the voters, I mean, they care about Virginia issues, but obviously what's going on in D.C. captures a lot of the news. And then you have someone like President Trump who just gets so much attention. It's hard to talk about anything else. And that's why I think these elections tend to become nationalized.
One of the things that was interesting during the midterm elections, where Democrats retook the House and held on to the Senate in Virginia, was that Governor Youngkin tried to make this a referendum on this 15-week abortion ban that he was championing, that came in the wake of the Dobbs decision. And he was very much thinking that would be a compromise issue. Glenn Youngkin, for a while, seemed to want to straddle the idea that he was not a Donald Trump Republican. And to be fair, he certainly didn't campaign as one. Do you see daylight between the waning days of the Youngkin administration and the second phase of the Trump administration?
So I think Winsome Earle-Sears, she's running as kind of Youngkin's successor. So I think she's tying herself more to Youngkin, not necessarily tying herself to President Trump, because obviously President Trump didn't win Virginia.
Yeah.
And I think there's a little bit of a tension on the Republican ticket, because the number 2 on the ticket, John Reed, who's the lieutenant governor nominee, he's very much more a Trump person. So he's trying to tie himself to Trump. Winsome Earle-Sears is trying to tie herself more to Youngkin, and I think that creates a little bit of a mixed message on the Republican side.
We've seen, though, John Reed has been out there more. There was a lot of controversy, as we know, in the early phases of him winning that nomination. He was pressured to drop off the ticket because of a questionable website that he has disavowed any connection to. He came on the show. We discussed that. But he's also talking about Virginia issues. We had him on. We talked about the Loudoun County School issue, this Title IX investigation. And that was the sort of issue that really, I would imagine, from your perspective, too, won 2021 for not just Governor Youngkin, but the Republicans, because there was a lot of attention paid on what was a very, very intense cultural issue, and voters responded in some of those areas.
Right. So the Republicans are definitely trying to make those issues top of mind for voters and trying to, a little bit, rerun the 2021 election again. I think the problem is things have changed. A lot of voters are worried about what's going on in D.C. They're worried about the federal cuts. They're worried about potential cuts to Medicaid. And so while, yes, the Republicans are trying to run on that, I think it's a challenge in an environment like this where 4 years have passed. There's just different things that voters are thinking about.
Okay, I know this is a very broadly overgeneralized way to describe Virginia. Are we still looking at Virginia, considering the fact that the Democrats had some inroads the last 2 cycles? Is it back to being a purple state? Is it a red state? Is it a blue state? How are we looking at that going into 2025?
I think most people think of Virginia as a light blue state, and in a year like this where the party out of the White House tends to do well in Virginia elections, I think most people think the Democrats have a little bit of an advantage. We'll see if the Republicans can come back and win the election, but I think if you look at the different metrics in terms of enthusiasm, in terms of money, I think the Democrats certainly have the advantage right now.
Check out Sam Shirazi on Substack, and his podcast will push out links to that. Great to see you, Sam. Thanks for coming in. Please come back.
Thank you so much.
And the Final Five is back after this.